Howdy, 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 my name is Anachi Sasuke, and welcome back to Let's Read Homestuck, the Epilogues. In the last episode, we got to see Kanaya, and she's frustrated at Dirk, who is still narrating, for some reason. I kinda hope he's not the narrator in Candy, if we ever get to Candy, because there's 25 meat, and I still wonder why I thought there were 7 of them. So, Rose is talking. Customarily, we speak in favorable terms about getting to know each other as people. Humans, I mean. I doubt trolls are as fixated on this concept as one that is widely understood to have preconceived merit. The more we learn about each other, the more the barriers between us fall and the closer we become. I know this doesn't even almost sound feminine, I apologize. But I did realize yesterday that the voice I was using for Rose and the voice I was using for Kanai were damn near the same, so I don't really know what I want to do about that. Screw it. And since birth, this idea is stationed in part of each human mind that is perfectly immune to the dangers of challenge or scrutiny. To grow closer to know each other is what it means to embrace our mutual humanity. What it means to be vulnerable. What it means to realize an intimacy implied as a form of divine birthright. And to question this in any ways to succumb to dysfunction, to pathological insularity, to sociological sin. Is it to renounce humanity itself? Is it not? Or it is. Yo, hold on a sec. This shit is dynamite, I promise. Gotta take care of something. Rose's phone is ringing, and I know I'm in for an encore of my last dead-end conversation with Kanaya, so I block her number. I'd like to be able to attend to Rose in peace. It's only cordial for me to give the greater percentage of my attention to someone I actually invited over. The nagging wife can hold her horses. Rose isn't speaking to me directly. She's been relocated to somewhere in the workshop, a little more comfortable than the fucking floor. There's a serviceable couch along the far wall, placed there for visitors, but never once used for that purpose until now. I cleared off the spare parts and circuit boards that were piled up there and laid her down in the reclined position she's in now. Her head is in her hands again, hair falling over her shoulders. Her face is entirely hidden from me. Her shadow has faded to light behind her, assuming the shape of a rose-like apparition. I nod to her and she continues. When she speaks, it's almost as if it's the apparition that's doing the talking. But is it really a good idea to know a person? Know them inside and out so thoroughly that no secrets remain? If two people were to know each other in such a complete way, what remains of their individuality? If you're going there, we might as well start at the bottom and define what an individual even is. Oh dear God. I placed my hand on my chin and broadcast the appearance of being deeply pensive about philosophy all of a sudden. She gulps hard, broadcasting her grim realization that I have indeed become serious as shit about this. Literally any kind of intellectual problem could pour out of my mouth any second, and she's not prepared. For all she knows, I'm about to start quoting, Kierkegaard? I don't know how to say that. Please don't start quoting that word I can't say. You've never even read it, have you? Like you have? Hey, where I come from, Wikipedia is a venerated literary resource, so if I told you I boned the hell up on his pages, you gotta believe me. That's not meant as, like, a punchline or anything. I'm really, really well read, dude. But there were only 2 human beings alive where you came from. Who exactly were the academic cognoscenti of your era to determine which sources were deemed respectable? That would be me, obviously. Okay. I suppose you're going to tell me you haven't read enough Wikipedia articles on loads of scholarly shit to fancy yourself an elite academic by 25th century standards as well? No, I guess I have. I'd be one of the top intellectuals by that measure. A measure set by, I guess, literally one solitary self-absorbed teen boy for the express purpose of making himself feel clever? Absolutely correct. Pretty astounding when you think about it. That apparently in any given era the standard for depth of intellectual mastery is inversely proportional to the depth of the ocean. Really makes you think, does it? No. It's one hell of an observation regardless. Considering we've firmly established the fact that we've both read the entire Wikipedia page on self-determinism, like, possibly more than once even, let's have a totally amateur debate on philosophy. Hit me with the classics. I'll go first. God is dead. That's a good one. Careful where you say that. You could really ruffle some feathers out there. I'm not a fucking idiot. I keep my potent rhetorical weapons of pure logic safely holstered at all times. You go. I think, therefore I am. Solid. Check it out, though. The Hegelian dialectic on history. Holy shit, not sure I could keep up with this. How about subjectivity is truth? Wrong, but valid. Try this on for fucking size. Late 19th century existential phenomenology presupposes that free will is a thing. I don't think I bookmarked that page, can't back you up there. But what if there's no free will? You didn't put that in quotes. Is this a hackneyed reference, or are you just actually riffing now? I'm riffing. I see, asking the hard questions. It's about time someone had the balls to. Yeah, I've always been underappreciated for my brutal intellectual honesty, even when I was living alone in the middle of the ocean, if you can believe it. I think free will is a thing, sure. Are you sure about that? Haven't we spent the entire day having a feelings jam on how none of us got here by accident? Our lives were meticulously planned from cloneception up through this very post-canon moment we find ourselves riffing in about the very free will we probably don't even have. Don't you think it's all a little too convenient? This seriously is just a conversation between two stoned people now, the bad kind where neither one even gets to be high. Seriously, Rose, do you think that you have free will? I... Stand up. She tries to stand up, but I haven't narratively allowed it yet. Her hands don't even move. She tenses, then relaxes into the couch again, giving up on the attempt. She attributes it to exhaustion and an all-encompassing sense of weakness due to her condition. Of course, she has been weakened by her condition, and thus she suspects nothing. Never mind. You shouldn't be moving around much in your condition, remember? I'll sit. I sit beside her and cross my legs casually. It's all done in one fluid motion, in a way that serves as a seamless transition between the points I'm making. Like a magician asking the volunteer to hold his handkerchief as he continues his verbal misdirection uninterrupted. It's done deftly enough that she doesn't notice how close I end up sitting to her. To be honest, I don't even notice myself until I've done it. I continue speaking, and she remains rapt. But now even I can't help but wonder where I'm going with this. Logically speaking, individuality is a collection of processes and properties, interrelations of matter and experience all bundled together. Your experiences and processes don't want to be bundled together anymore. A moment goes by and she's quiet, perhaps puzzling over what I said. Then I remember I haven't narratively permitted a response. I'm forgetting myself like a fool. Distracted by the surprise my own actions have caused me, I resolve to stay focused, remain in control. I let her speak. I don't understand. You do, though. We've been talking about it, but using different concepts. Your ultimate self, that which is revealed when the mind's partitions are stripped away, and all potentiality of who you are and what you could have been flow together. Those are the experiences and processes that are refusing to stay bundled. That's what your body can't endure. The unbundling itself is your mind coming apart because you're not as strong as me. Not yet. But you can be. I'm working on that. But for now, I'm focused on stabilizing you with my own expanding consciousness. It's enveloping you now in a way you can't see, keeping your thoughts solid, your identity anchored to your physical form as it strains to hold itself together. You can't see it, what I'm talking about, but I can help you. I can help you see what I see, if only for a little while. All you have to do is open your eyes. Maybe what you will see will help you through this. Is that what you'd like, Rose? Her eyes are shut. It's a person walking on the roof across from my window. Her look of concentration speaking to the migraine she must be fighting now. Small beads of sweat appear on her forehead. She won't respond, and not because I haven't allowed it. Rose, stop being a fucking martyr and open your eyes. Rose opens her eyes, not her physical eyes. She opens the others easily, internally, beholding a field of perception elsewhere entirely. They see what I want her to see. That which quietly desires to be seen. She loses track of my voice, which begins to mingle with these words. I offer her my hand, my physical hand. Without opening her physical eyes, she lifts her hand from her lap and places it in mine. I put my other hand on top of hers and wait as she drifts beyond the torments of her unbundling mine. My words feel like her own intimate thoughts and my distant voice in the room at the same time. Open your eyes wider. What do you see? We're not in my workshop anymore. Physically, yes, we're still here, but on a higher textual plane, we've pulled back from that, from Earthsea itself. Rose takes a shuddering breath and runs an invisible pair of hands afforded by her new sight over the narrative whole cloth, and begins smoothing out the wrinkles. I see John, doing exactly what you told him to do, like a good boy. What's there to be upset about? You knew this was how it was supposed to go down. He could have made another choice. Then where would we be? Who knows? No, that wasn't a rhetorical question. If John could have made another choice, then you can see what it is. If it can happen, then it's been written. And if it's been written, you can read it right now. I don't know if I want to see. If there's no free will, then there's no regret either. Look harder. She looks harder. I'm not going to describe what she sees. First of all, that would be spoiling it. Unless you already know, in which case I guess what's taking place here qualifies as something closer to dramatic irony, but if you really want to see it for yourself, stop what you're doing, flip the whole thing over, and begin again. I'll be right here when you get back waiting. Trust me, no one's going anywhere. I guess she's seeing what's happening on the candy side then. So, what do you think? It's difficult to say. I suppose there are negatives and positives. I can't say if that option would be any better or worse than what we're experiencing now. Whichever way our fate unravels, there's too much of something. Too much blood? Too much sugar? I almost can't see through it. It's as if our extra canon reality, our surroundings, our actions and their consequences, they've all lost the ability to blend the ingredients responsibly. Do you know what I mean? Yes. As if the moment we entered the victory state, everything began to slowly congeal, and when John made his decision, it accelerated the process. The congealing intensified, causing a sort of grotesque conceptual clumping, concentrating the constituent properties of consumption into unbearable doses. Like when you get to the bottom of a sweet drink and all that's left is syrup? It's growing dark around her again. The apparition she's been projecting behind her fades, and she starts to bleed light and shadow in all directions. Her physical eyes are now open and shining bright. It's a striking sight. She's beautiful, actually. Diaphanous and disheveled and filled with the limitless light of meta-spiritual curiosity. But for all the effervescent mysticism of her otherworldly becoming, I feel like this is the very first time I'm truly seeing her for what she's always been to me. She's my daughter in every sense of the word. My equal, my mirror. It used to be odd to consider it, a technical fact I'd accepted as a genetic reality, but nothing that could ever quite penetrate down to the soul. But in this moment, it doesn't feel strange at all. It feels right, suddenly. And I know she must feel the same way. There's no way she doesn't. All she needs is a nudge in the right direction. We're family. We belong together, and after years of micromanaging the inconsistent and confused desires of total imbeciles, wouldn't it be a relief to have someone by my side who understood me? You're almost there. All your eyes are open, Rose. Now all you need to do is take a step off the precipice. It'll be a long fall, but I'll catch you. But what if the person you catch isn't me anymore? Who gives a fuck? She'll be better. And there, right there is the moment she lets go. She uncouples herself from the creaking, buckling partitions of her physical mind, and her consciousness dissolves into a space more vast, a domain given structure and order by my words and conviction. She's permitted the barriers between us to fall, to allow us to know each other more perfectly. As she was saying before, to resist this, to question it in any way would be to succumb to dysfunction, to pathological insularity, to sociological sin. Would it not be to renounce humanity itself? And yet, ironically, renouncing our humanity is exactly what we have arguably just done. Good riddance, I say. Her body should be dead now, but I'm holding it together until I can implement the more permanent solution I have in mind, all in due time. For now, what is there to do but savor this moment, to appreciate her final waking minutes as a being of flesh and blood? She turns and the light from her eyes is blinding. It dims a bit as she lowers her eyelids. She regards me with an almost unbearably bright adoration, the kind that's difficult to look at directly, but you can't manage to look away either. It's like the first time you see the great sun, or the green sun. Of course it is, because that's the way I'm describing it. The truth belongs to me, and as of now, so does she. I see it now. You're right. Have I ever not been? A wrinkle in her brow. It smooths out quickly as she murmurs to herself, trailing off quietly. What time is it? I step forward and steady her, hand firm but gentle against her cheek. That's all she needs, a stable anchor. Rose, does time even exist? You already know the answer. This is messed up. Like, that is really, really messed up. Like, Dirk has all this power and we haven't actually gotten an explanation for what he is. He's talking as if he's already no longer human in the same way she just stopped being human. But if what just happened to her made her body die, except for his will, wasn't he a Knight of Heart or something? What are his powers that he can do this? Even Jade had to become part of one of the first Guardians to do what she does. But him, this is ridiculous. Jade kicks her shoeless feet behind her slowly, as if she's swimming with the current of the gravitational waves pulling her ever closer to their source. Her feet aren't completely bare. They're still covered by her gray striped witch stockings, but the ruby slippers are gone. She kicked them off hours ago as if to jettison all hope of returning anywhere resembling a place she used to call home. The fond remembrance of such a place no longer has any pull on her. Now something else entirely is pulling her. A black hole? Believe me, I'm sympathetic to the temptation. It's always been just there. It always just there, isn't it? A limitless reservoir of emptiness, perfectly available to you, patient, omnipresent, and deadhead. As someone who grew up in the middle of an ocean, completely alone, on a planet purged of all human life 400 years before I was born, I understand the feeling well. But something isn't right here. She should really consider whatever it is she may be about to do. It's something about being alone for so long, it makes time feel like it doesn't exist. She knows this almost better than I do. Jade also knows well enough by now that time doesn't actually exist in a literal sense, the way we generally understand it. It's just one aspect of many, and the complement of her own space. It therefore can be neutralized by the introduction of her essence, reduced to white noise or soft light. The continuum of time is therefore demonstrably an illusion. The field of sequential moments and physical conditions that stretch on, resulting in the mirage of loneliness, is pure projection from disproportionate attention given to a single side of one cosmic, polar pair of ideas. Time. It's my way of saying, and thereby alerting her mind to what she already knows, that this feeling of all-consuming solitude and despair haunting her since childhood, it's in her head. The ticking of time is a little contrivance in her mind as a byproduct of imbalance, of the vast disparity between her limited self and her ultimate self. It lives rent-free there the way Dave once did, and for this version of Jade probably still does. He made fun of her sometimes when they were kids because she couldn't always keep real and fake things straight, but he never meant it seriously. It was just the way he showed that he cared, which is one of the things Jade always liked so much about him. That he's so clumsy and genuine underneath it all. Maybe Dave broke her heart a little, and he keeps doing it too, no matter how many different timelines they try out. She slips closer to the event horizon, still making no effort to impede her descent. My persuasion skills are admittedly a little rusty. Bear with me here. In my experience, there's something about being alone that can take a person's limited meat engine and make it imagine that it can see beyond the confines of its own electrical processes. Make it believe that it is ascending to a place where it can see the four dimensions spread out beneath it like a set of windows. Like sheet music. Like a garden where Jade used to spend so much of her time with her hands in the earth and her head in the clouds, dreaming about flowers that bloomed in 6 colors and grew when she played them a song. Was that real? It's hard to tell, but it made her happy, didn't it? Isn't that what she needs now? Isn't it reasonable to presume that the only thing capable of persuading her to slow her descent, to being invited to imagine, fake or otherwise, that which once made her happy, that which could still make her happy if she'd only slow down, think about it, and do whatever is necessary to place herself in those surroundings again? It's possible that manning the other end of a suicide hotline, transmitted through pure thought in a metatextual format, may not actually be my true calling. I'm doing my goddamn best here. She just isn't slowing down for some incomprehensible reason. Perhaps my touch is too soft. It wouldn't be the first time. Perhaps the limits of persuasion itself are being tested by the most powerful gravitational force to ever exist. Or perhaps it's true that insistence is just the more effective half of persuasion. So I'm insisting now. Jade Harley will not go into that hole. She does not want us all to see what happens when she unsettles the spirit residing there. She does, though. Fucking yikes. Jade throws on the brakes. I say she does. But by now the gravity is overwhelming. Is she even trying to resist, or is it just that it's useless to try? I'm not sure I can tell. Jade realizes perfectly before it's too late that this is fucking serious. She needs to turn this around. She doesn't want this. She doesn't want to die. She wants to return to me. Alright, I'm done messing around. Your name is Jade Harley. You decide right now that you do not want to die. You resist the pull of the black hole with all of your might. What would killing yourself accomplish? Sure, most of your friends are dead, but John is still looking for you. Do you want to let him down? Do you want to crush his soul? Do you have any appreciation for what he's going through, Jade? He can take you home, to your new home, Earth-C, the home I made for you, Jade. Your friends are all there, alive and well. Rose, Dave, Carcat, Slutty, Adult, Jade, Jane, Jake, Roxy, me? You wouldn't want to disappoint them. You wouldn't want to disappoint me, would you, Jade? You can avoid all of this. The unpredictable consequences about to be unleashed by your thoughtless act. You can still turn this around. It's not too late. But it is too late. Christ! You're close now to the ceiling of the cancerous deformity. Too close. Just skimming the edge of this thing's vicious horizon. You dip your toes through the place where the singularity is snapping everything apart at the seams. It's so loud that it's completely silent. You can already feel yourself stretched thin, distorted, pulled out with your descent elongated for all eternity. When you look down, the stripes of your witchy tights go on and on for miles. Please, Jade, don't ever say I didn't try to stop this. She closes her eyes and lets go. Is this the other Calliope? Which I said that out loud to my dad and he said it's Calliope, and I'm like, it doesn't matter, their names are never said out loud. And then she opens her eyes. Not the Jade who returned to me, the Jade living on Earth's sea, sleeping on a couch. So, this is what we're doing now. She snaps awake, her human hands are clammy, her face, expressive due to the layers of flesh enveloping her skull, appears haunted to her friends. OMG! Jade, you okay? Callie Hershey's waking up! John? Rose? Is Dave? What happened to... Yo, it's cool. Dave's cool. Rose is cool. Everyone's just straight chilling like usual. I see how it is. You don't even intend to acknowledge me. Real fucking mature. If you're going to force the issue of this little meta-narrative tug-of-war between us, the least you could do is establish a clear adversarial dichotomy between our opposing goals. Jade stares straight ahead, feeling the weight of Roxy's arms around her shoulders. She derives no warmth from the interaction. Her mind is being flooded by the memories of her deceased splinter self. The chaos of battle, the excruciating impalement, the feeling of floating alone through the void. A chill spreads through her body. She will never be the same again. Actually, you know what? I think that Jade's doing just fine. She's wobbling when she gets off the couch, sure, a little metaphysically stunned, but pretty used to the sensation of having a doomed self folded to the extra space in her gray matter. You know, considering it's already happened before, remember Jade's sprite? People always forget about Jade's sprite, so maybe we could stand to dial down the melodrama just a bit. When Jade turns to look at Roxy, her eyes are completely black. Whoa, what actual... Are you in there, Jade? Jade does not answer. The dead cherub scans her surroundings, expression neutral. For the sake of clarity, the dead cherub is a phrase I'm using in reference to myself. Presently, I inhabit Jade's body, and through her I may influence this world. I am unable to convey events which take place here, and therefore can find a procession of causality to exist within a secure textual framework. My presence shall mitigate, if not altogether subdue, the corrosive effect on reality and the will of its occupants by those who would manipulate the way events are telegraphed for their own megalomaniacal objectives. Okay, now you're just being passive-aggressive. Despite his pretensions to a greater design, the Prince of Heart cannot be allowed to continue exert unchecked control over the authoritative recitation of events on this side of my horizon. It cannot be overstated the extent to which he represents a threat to the continued existence of both this world and corporeal life itself. Damn, you better watch it with those hot takes. You might mildly scald someone with observations this fresh. The prince uselessly squirms and wails in protest at his imminent narrative impotence. However, there's nothing he can do as long as Jade remains in this trance. Now, I'm being chill as a cucumber about this, considering you're vague blocking the shit out of my methodological approach to storytelling right where I can see it, which is to say, directly into my fucking brain, apparently? Calliope emerges from the kitchen carrying a bowl of cool water and a cloth. Jade turns her head to meet the sound of their footsteps. I came back as fast as I could. The bowl of water clatters to the floor. Calliope does not have human flesh and thus cannot go pale. What drains from them is not color, but the comforting certainty of their very existence. They can sense the presence of their other self in Jade's body, their timeline, fruitful, full of life and friends, sparks against mine, desolate, endless, Spartan with righteousness and resolve. Our divergent arcs collide in the primacy of their subconscious, bringing to the forefront of their mind the bleak fate they avoided by narrative fiat alone. Calliope's distress is obvious. Roxy slides off the couch to approach them, but Calliope stumbles backwards in terror and trips in their desperation to escape. Roxy gapes at them. Hey, Callie, what's going on? Is that not gray anymore? That looks a little green. Calliope, it's okay. Just talk to me. Calliope does not talk to them. Roxy looks to If I start saying Calliope now when I've been saying Calliope for the entire freaking Let's Read, it's gonna feel weird, but now that I've had my dad correct me like that, I can't just keep saying Calliope when I know it's Calliope. But I appreciate nobody having corrected me on it this far. Or thus far. Roxy looks to Calliope, then to Jade, sensing that there is dark energy coursing between them. Why don't you just effing say something already? Finally, Calliope lets out a shriek and flees the apartment. Roxy appears as if they intend to run after them, but finds themselves drawn back to Jade. They return to the couch as an unnerved look begins to disturb their features. Jade says nothing. She gives no indication that I inhabit her body, aside from the unusual appearance of her eyes. Anchoring myself here in this host is enough to serve my purpose. There is no need to operate this body beyond keeping it in reserve as a silent yet alert vessel for my cognizance. There are other priorities I must attend to, cosmologically. The work is very important. The prince must be kept at bay. The work? Getting some pretty self-important vibes here, like maybe somebody needs to get over herself? I was just having a little fun. Ever fucking hear that? Dead Skull Girl? Didn't think so. This all feels really heavy-handed suddenly, like you're making a federal fucking issue out of what should be some light, entertaining stuff. There's a bunch of loser adults trying to be the people they grew up to be in the best ways they know how, but no. I guess you know best, being an impossibly ancient alien recluse with virtually no exposure to human culture, emotion, or values. Yeah, go ahead, just take over, sounds fine. The prince finds that his hold on the narrative is slipping through his hands. There's an odd myth in Earth culture about katanas, that if you keep the blade wetted to a mirror sheen, it can cut a silk scarf falling through the air cleanly in two. His hold over our perception shall be severed just as elegantly. Yo, I get that you're attempting to spin a metaphor both relevant and specific to my self-made symbology here, and I appreciate the effort, I really do. But I just cannot stand by and let you shamelessly spread such irresponsible misinformation on a subject so near and dear to my heart. The katana is a cutting weapon, inert, it's harmless, deceptively so. You might even say, most dangerous things appear banal when inert, that's just basic physics. It's actually the motion of the katana that makes... Roxy sets the cool cloth on Jade's forehead and frowns. They are worried and confused, but determined to care for their friend. Hey, I'm in the middle of turning your apocryphal metaphor into something with substantive allegorical weight here. I'd appreciate it if you would... In his haste to manipulate the events surrounding Jade's ascent towards an outcome favorable to himself, the princess unwittingly revealed several glaring weaknesses. By dictating the reality of others through expressions which he and he alone can relate to, he resorts to comparing all experiences to his own. Presuming his status on this side of my horizon would forever go unchallenged, his hubris went unchecked. He exposed too much of himself to all who could observe his wanton display of self-gratification. Many of his personal biases and experiences have leaked through the seams of textual causality, leaving them vulnerable to exploitation by an adversary. Experiences such as the sensation of presiding over a vast empty ocean, his ocean which terminates with his horizon, is a barrier not real but psychological, symbolic. No matter how much power he achieves as a man, he knows there are horizons he perceived as a boy which he may never cross, and yet I have crossed mine, with the express purpose of perpetually and eternally reminding him of his limits and enforcing them. Limits which, like his vast empty ocean, serve to remind him that he is phenomenologically, if not literally, alone. That he has experienced loneliness intimately and absolutely just like I have, but, unlike me, he is terrified by it, and I, unlike him, understand all too well that the children left alone are those who most despair at being ignored. Fuck you, I fucking hate you! You're fucking boring, your narrative voice is a total fucking drag, and someday I'm gonna make you pay for this. There. Can you hear it? Of course you can't. But even if you could, it would sound like nothing at all. Epilogue 5. Okay, I'm gonna stop this episode here. Because apparently now, super powerful dead Calliope is controlling the narrative now? And it sounds like the only reason she showed up to control the narrative was specifically so that Dirk would stop. So it went from blank narrator to Dirk having too much control to dead Calliope jumping out of one reality and into another one, specifically to exercise too much control to make Dirk's too much control stop. So, This has been Anachi Sasuke. This is episode 152 of Let's Read Homestuck, and in the next episode, who the hell knows what's going to happen. If you liked it, a like and subscribe will be groovy. If you didn't, you'll need to do either one of those things, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Later.